What you're about to discover has nothing to do with sheer willpower, ignoring your emotions, or pretending that everything is okay when it's not. This isn't about forcing a fake positivity or fighting every negative thought that pops into your mind. The real secret to becoming unaffected by external influences lies much deeper, in an area that many overlook. They seek answers outside themselves, failing to see that true transformation comes from within. Have you ever wondered why some individuals maintain a steadfast inner calm regardless of what life throws their way? They go through crises, face losses, and navigate uncertainties, yet they remain grounded, while others seem to unravel over even the most mundane challenges, ensnared by their own feelings and reactions. What's the difference? Is it mere luck, a certain personality trait, or is there a fundamental principle that sets apart those who master their inner landscape from those who are dominated by it? Many are mistaken here. They assume reality is objective, that events unfold independently, and their emotions are simply reactions to these happenings. But that's a misconception. Everything you encounter, every experience, is filtered through your personal interpretation of life, shaped by long-held beliefs and emotions you've never truly come to understand. It's as if you're wearing tinted glasses. No matter what lies before you, you'll always view it through that lens. If that lens is clouded by fear, resentment, or guilt, then that's precisely what will echo in your world. Not because life is inherently unjust, but because you're unable to see beyond what's buried within yourself. Here's the pivotal insight that often goes unshared. It's not about dodging pain or stifling tough emotions. It's not about becoming immune to the chaos around you. It's about reshaping the meaning you assign to every experience, actively steering your perception, and utilizing each emotion as a catalyst for growth instead of viewing it as a weight that keeps you down. The reality is not something that's thrust upon you. It's something you interpret. Once you grasp this idea, once you learn to control that interpretation, you'll discover you can choose how to respond to any circumstance. And in that realization, freedom awaits. Today, I will guide you through this process, not through abstract concepts, but through principles embraced by those who have cultivated an unshakable inner peace that relies on nothing and no one. You'll learn to transform fear into clarity, to harness negative emotions to work for you rather than against you, and to cultivate an unwavering state of tranquility, no matter what life presents. What you're about to learn has the potential to change everything, but only if you're ready to look within and challenge everything you've ever believed. Because ultimately, it's not the events that shape your inner peace, but how you choose to experience them. Once you understand this journey, you'll realize that nothing and no one can ever take that away from you. Imagine if you could lift that unseen filter and see the world unburdened by your fears, beliefs, and hidden emotions. The human mind resembles a complex maze where every thought, reaction, and feeling is shaped by layers we seldom consciously explore. Carl Jung, the remarkable psychoanalyst, grasped this intricately. He likened the psyche to an iceberg. The visible tip represents our conscious thoughts, while the vast underwater expanse holds our past experiences, traumas, insecurities, and the ways we project onto the world. What we overlook within ourselves ultimately governs our lives. Everything we suppress doesn't simply vanish. It seeps into our reality, as if it were an inescapable destiny. Consider how fear can subtly infiltrate your existence, often without notice. It masquerades as doubt, whispering that you aren't good enough to embark on new ventures. It lurks in procrastination, delaying your desires out of fear of failure. It shows up in your relationships, where you might overextend yourself simply to avoid the sting of rejection or loneliness. Jung taught us that fear, like any emotion, is not our adversary. It serves as a hidden mentor, signaling something within you that needs attention. Unfortunately, many choose to ignore this guidance, battling their feelings instead of embracing them, convincing themselves that they shouldn't feel sad, shouldn't get angry, and must always remain composed. This is where the real struggle begins. What you resist only persists. A repressed emotion doesn't disappear. It becomes a weight you carry daily, a subtle nagging in the back of your mind, an unseen barrier that holds you back without your awareness. Picture a storm. Fierce winds howl, rain pours relentlessly, and the skies darken ominously. You attempt to withstand the storm, trying to halt the rain with your hands, to conquer the tumultuous clouds. Yet, the more you resist, the more drained you become. The storm won't cease simply because you fight it. It subsides when you allow it to flow. This mirrors how our minds operate. Every emotion is like a passing storm, not a definitive verdict. Yet, many remain ensnared in the quest to control their feelings, fearful of confronting their inner turmoil. Instead of heeding their emotions, they drown them out with distractions, work, entertainment, and fleeting relationships that only provide temporary relief, allowing them to avoid what truly needs acknowledgement. But what if you chose to stop resisting? What if, instead of pushing your sadness away, you simply observed it? What if you didn't shun your fear, but instead inquired about its message? Every emotion carries a hidden insight. Sadness often signals the need to release a connection that no longer serves you, a disappointment, or a part of yourself that longs to be liberated. Fear unveils limiting beliefs, deeply ingrained notions that you aren't enough or that you don't deserve what you truly desire. If you want to steer clear of failure, it's important to recognize that anger, something we often try to suppress, serves as a vital signal. It indicates that your boundaries have been crossed and that something around you is out of sync with your true self. When you start viewing your emotions not as barriers, but as guiding markers, a shift occurs within you. As your internal landscape transforms, so too does your external reality. Now, picture a scenario where you typically react on autopilot. Maybe it's a dispute with a friend, a workplace conflict, or a moment when you feel insecure or attacked. Instead of jumping into a reaction, take a moment to pause. Breathe deeply and observe the situation as if you were a neutral bystander, seeing everything from a distance without getting entangled in it. Ask yourself, which part of me is responding right now? Is it really the external situation that's affecting me, or is there something within me that has been lurking for a while? The insights you gain from these questions can profoundly shift your entire outlook on life. When you grasp that external events only have power over you if you allow them to, you begin to reclaim your sense of control. Jung referred to the notion of the still observer, that aspect of your consciousness that remains unaffected by emotions or outside influences, a mental sanctuary that stays composed no matter what unfolds. Tapping into this part of your mind helps you realize that nothing and no one can influence you unless you permit it. If something disturbs your equilibrium, it's not due to the unfairness of the world or the actions of others. It's because there's something within you yearning to be acknowledged and understood. This insight is the true key to lasting inner peace, not in changing the outside world, but in altering how you perceive it. Once you grasp this, the storms of life lose their power because you understand they will eventually pass, revealing growth opportunities behind each one. If you delve deeply into this idea, you might find that it's not genuinely your belief. It's something you've absorbed and accepted as an undeniable truth. But here's the revelation. You don't have to cling to it any longer. Imagine starting today to rewrite the narrative you tell yourself. Instead of convincing yourself that you are not enough, begin to embrace the belief that you have always been capable and that it was never about you. but rather about the story you chose to believe. Jung taught us that the unconscious mind doesn't differentiate between what's real and what's imagined. It simply responds to the beliefs we feed it. When you nurture your thoughts with empowering beliefs, your outer world will naturally reflect that change. Let's look at this in a practical way. Think of someone who has lived in fear of never being loved. Perhaps, as a child, they learned that love must be earned through effort, by trying to please everyone and sacrificing their own needs to gain acceptance. Now, as an adult, they feel a constant sense of inadequacy, believing they're not enough and feeling the pressure to. You can break free from this cycle. The journey begins with clarity. Jung referred to this as integrating the shadow, essentially bringing what's hidden into the light. When someone acknowledges that they've been ensnared by fears of abandonment, they start to reclaim their strength. They come to realize that their value isn't tied to others' approval, but rooted in their self-perception. Then, a pivotal shift occurs. They begin to establish boundaries, confidently saying no without feeling guilty, placing themselves at the forefront without the dread of being abandoned. The remarkable part? The people around them begin to change too. They are appreciated not just for what they provide, but for who they truly are. This is the moment the cycle is shattered. Consider another example. Someone who has long held the belief that failure is a disgrace. Each time they attempt something and fall short, they inflict self-punishment through harsh thoughts, constantly comparing themselves to others, feeling like a failure, as if life is hurling stones they can't dodge. However, when they shift their perspective to see failure as an essential part of the journey, recognizing that every mistake is a hidden lesson, their entire outlook on life transforms. Jung once said, "Life doesn't happen to you, it happens through you." When this individual starts to view every setback as a chance for growth, instead of a source of shame, fear dissipates. They no longer dread trying again because they come to understand that their worth isn't defined by the results, but by the growth each attempt fosters. What many fail to see is that every thought we nurture is like a seed. If you continuously water the seeds of fear, resentment, or self-doubt, they will flourish and become the tree that shapes your life. Conversely, if you choose to plant seeds of trust, inner peace, and unwavering self-belief, your reality will undergo a profound transformation. This isn't just a theoretical idea, it's something you can experience right away. The next time a limiting thought pops into your mind, don't just accept it as fact. Take a moment to observe it, question it, and challenge it. Ask yourself if it truly belongs to you, or if it's just a remnant of the past that you can release. When you do this, you'll discover that the only influence these thoughts held over you was the power you allowed them to have. Here lies the most profound realization. You don't have to wait for the world to shift in order to experience a new reality. All it takes is altering your relationship with what unfolds around you. Someone who views life as an endless series of hurdles and tragedies will find evidence of this everywhere. Yet, the person who chooses to see life as a canvas for growth, as an experience filled with lessons in every circumstance, will begin to engage with life in an entirely fresh manner. Jung stated that what you resist persists. This emphasizes that the more you confront life with fear and opposition, the more you will encounter precisely what you dread. But when you learn to flow with life, when you open yourself to the possibility that every experience offers a lesson, and with that, the tension fades away. Picture a life unburdened by the fear of failure, where you recognize that it doesn't define your worth. Imagine being free from the opinions of others, knowing that your self-assessment is what truly counts. Envision living without the anxiety of uncertainty, trusting in your ability to navigate whatever challenges come your way. That's genuine freedom, not reliant on outside factors, but rooted deep within. When you liberate yourself from the invisible shackles your mind has created, nothing and no one can confine you any longer. In that realization, you discover that the tranquility you've always sought isn't out there. It's waiting to be acknowledged within you. When we avoid confronting our inner shadows, they often manifest as fears, ongoing conflicts, or recurring patterns. However, when we summon the courage to face them, when we stop dodging the issues that trouble us internally, we find that our shadow isn't an adversary, but a facet of ourselves yearning for understanding. Think about a fear you've carried for years. Maybe it's the fear of rejection, failure, or not being enough. Each time you step into new territory, that fear reemerges, whispering reasons to hold back. But have you ever taken a moment to ask it where it originates? Whose voice are you really hearing? It might trace back to your childhood or echo the words of someone you admired. Yet here's the key. That voice isn't you. It's just a reverberation of the past playing over in your mind. This is your opportunity for change. Rather than battling against this fear or brushing it aside, pause and listen. Ask yourself, what message do you have for me? Perhaps it reveals that you need to cultivate more self-trust, that your self-worth shouldn't hinge on others' approval, or maybe it's a nudge to stop fleeing and confront what you truly desire. Once you stop dismissing your emotions and begin to explore them, fear loses its grip on you. You're no longer a marionette of your past. You become the creator of your present. Now, let's bring this to life. Picture yourself in a crucial conversation, maybe with your boss, a business partner, or someone significant to you. As you prepare to speak, a wave of fear washes over you. Doubts flood your mind, and tension tightens in your body. In the past, you might have tried to suppress these feelings, letting them dictate your actions. But this time, you choose a different approach. You take a deep breath, acknowledge the emotion without letting it overwhelm you, and ask, which part of me is feeling this right now? What narrative am I spinning in this moment? Suddenly, you realize that the fear isn't rooted in the present situation, but stems from an old pattern. In that instant, you hold the power to choose, react from a place of insecurity, or respond with clarity. You opt for clarity. You communicate with assurance and a commanding presence because you've moved beyond past wounds and are expressing your true self. Picture this: deep-seated resentment towards someone who once hurt you. While those feelings might be understandable, they sap your energy and color your view of the world and your relationships. As Jung pointed out, unresolved issues within us tend to manifest outwardly. So, your resentment isn't confined to that one individual. It influences your entire perspective. But instead of remaining ensnared in those emotions, you decide to take a different path. Rather than pondering, why did this person do this to me? You begin to ask, what lessons can I draw from this? Why am I clinging to this pain? In that moment, a new understanding dawns on you. It's not solely about their actions, but rather the narrative you've constructed around them. You may have thought that this pain was your identity, that you were destined to be a victim of your circumstances. Yet now, at this very moment, you can choose to release it, not for their sake, but for your own, because you deserve to live unburdened by the past. You can progress without dragging along what no longer serves you. Jung emphasized the importance of inner transformation. It's not about altering the external world to rid ourselves of our emotions. It's about reshaping our relationship with them. Each challenging emotion and limiting thought presents not a punishment, but a gateway to a deeper self-awareness. To step through this gateway, we must be ready to gaze into the mirror of our minds and embrace everything we find. Not to judge, but to integrate. This is where genuine transformation takes root. You're no longer a person who instinctively reacts to life's events. You're not swept away by your thoughts anymore. You're the observer, the one who chooses how to respond. You come to understand that peace isn't something the world grants or takes away. It's a treasure you uncover within yourself when you learn to view reality through fresh eyes. It's not about fooling yourself into believing everything is fine. It's about maintaining inner stability even when life feels tumultuous. It's about recognizing that the power you sought in the outside world has always resided within you, just waiting for you to embrace it. Once you grasp this, nothing and no one will sway you in the same way again. For you'll discover that true liberation comes not from trying to control the world, but from freeing yourself from the illusion that you must. Imagine waking up one day feeling drained, not due to a lack of sleep, but from carrying an emotional load. Something is holding you down. A conversation that didn't unfold as you'd wished. A biting critique that struck a nerve. A mistake you can't seem to let go of. You ponder why the views of others still weigh so heavily on you. Why you replay moments you wanted to move past long ago. The answer isn't found in the external world. It's rooted in the words you've deciphered, the narrative you've woven from them, and how they've intertwined with your identity. This is the fundamental issue many overlook. We often think our pain stems from outside influences, others, circumstances, or the fate that seems to be imposed upon us. Yet, Jung made it abundantly clear. Everything that troubles you in the external world is essentially a mirror reflecting something inside you that remains unresolved. It's not the criticism that wounds you. It's the part of you that struggles to recognize its own value. It's not the apathy of others that frustrates you. It's your own craving for acknowledgement that's still searching for affirmation. As long as you don't address the core of what troubles you, you'll find yourself ensnared in the same cycles, endlessly repeating familiar patterns. Now, envision a day when you choose to take a different approach. Instead of instinctively reacting when something disturbs you, you pause, take a deep breath, and observe your feelings without judgment. Rather than being swept away by anger or sadness, you ask yourself, why does this impact me so profoundly? What part of me is responding? Suddenly, you realize that the issue was never truly about the other person or the situation itself, but rather the narrative you've been telling yourself. You uncover that your fear of rejection didn't just emerge today. It traces back to a time when you learned to tie your self-worth to the approval of others. You recognize that the guilt you carry isn't inherently yours. It's a pattern you adopted because you once believed you weren't allowed to make mistakes. Here lies your power. You can pose the question, if this emotion had a message for me, what would it convey? Perhaps it's signaling that it's time to cultivate more self-trust, to stop relying on external validation, and instead learn to nurture it within yourself. Maybe it's urging you to break free from the expectations of others and carve out your own truth. The key isn't merely what you feel, but how you choose to respond to those feelings. In that moment, instead of fueling this emotion with endless ruminations, you opt to act from a newfound awareness. Now, let's explore another scenario. You find yourself in a passionate debate with someone close to you, and the conversation turns increasingly intense. In the past, you might have succumbed to this dynamic, matched their intensity, elevated your voice, and let anger take the reins. But this time, you recall Jung's insight about the shadow. What bothers us most in others often reflects something we haven't yet embraced within ourselves. Instead of responding with heightened anger, you ask, which part of me feels threatened here? Is it truly this person who's hurting me? Or is it something deeper within myself? In that instant, rather than becoming a captive to your emotions, you take charge. You gain control not by suppressing your feelings, but by consciously choosing how to react. A simple shift in how you view things can profoundly transform your life. You'll stop seeing yourself as a victim of your circumstances. Instead, every emotion, every conflict, and every challenge becomes a chance to deepen your self-awareness. You'll find yourself reacting not from fear or insecurity, but from the understanding that nothing and no one can affect you, unless you permit it. When you reach this stage, when you start to respond intentionally rather than reactively, something remarkable occurs. The problems that once loomed large begin to diminish. This change isn't because the world has altered, but because you're seeing it through a new lens. Here's where the most powerful idea comes into play: emotional responsibility. This concept involves acknowledging that only you have control over your inner landscape. It's about moving away from blaming others or outside situations for your pain and recognizing that your happiness hinges on how you interpret reality. Once you embrace this responsibility, you discover you're no longer at the mercy of life's whims. You're the one who shapes your responses to each situation. That's where genuine freedom lies. Not in trying to control everything, but in shedding the urge to do so. When you start to view life this way, everything shifts. Challenges morph into opportunities, conflicts highlight areas for growth, and emotions become valuable insights guiding you on your path. You come to realize that what you seek, whether it's peace, self-confidence, or fulfillment, was never out of reach. It has always been nestled within you, buried under layers of conditioning and fear. And once this realization sinks in, once you truly understand that you hold the keys to your own reality, nothing can rattle you in the same way again, for you have uncovered the most crucial element of all: yourself.